how does a game actually know when you are struggling? I mean, I want you to really think about that for a second.
It is kind of a wild concept when you stop and realize what's happening.
Right. Like, picture this scenario. You are deep into a playthrough. Maybe you're at this one specific, just agonizing jump, or you're locked in a grueling boss fight and you just keep dying.
Over and over again.
Exactly, at the exact same spot. You're gripping the controller, your blood pressure is visibly rising, you're, considering throwing your hardware across the room.
We've all been there.
Yeah, we have. And then suddenly, magically, a health pack appears in a corner where it definitely wasn't before.
Or the enemy's attack pattern seems just like a microscopic fraction slower to react.
Yes. And you sit there thinking, is it my imagination? Did I just get lucky?
Spoiler alert, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
Yeah.
What you're experiencing in that exact moment is a highly sophisticated, self-regulating machine secretly reading your behavior and, altering its own reality to keep you engaged.
Which is fascinating because we tend to conceptualize software as something entirely fixed, right?
Yeah, like a finished product.
Exactly. We think of code as a rigid set of static rules, just this unmoving brick wall that we bounce our inputs against until we either break through or give up.
Right.
But modern digital design has evolved, miles past that static paradigm. The environments you are playing in are constantly observing you.
Which perfectly sets up the mission for today's deep dive. We are exploring the high-tech, honestly borderline futuristic world of cybernetics and adaptive systems in video games.
It's a great topic.
It really is. Because when you look through the stack of sources we've gathered for this, ranging from game design theory masterclasses to cutting-edge AI case studies, a really clear picture emerges.
Modern games act much less like calculators and much more like living organisms.
Exactly. And our goal today is to completely uncover this hidden cybernetic cycle. It operates on a continuous four-step loop: information, decision, action, result.
That is the core of it all.
We're going to pull back the curtain on the underlying mechanics and see exactly how systems self-regulate to maintain the absolute perfect experience for you, the player.
To truly grasp how these digital environments adapt to human skill, we first have to, ground ourselves in the concept they're actually borrowing from. We need to look at the foundational science of cybernetics.
Okay, let's unpack that terminology right away.
Yeah.
Because the word cybernetics carries a lot of pop culture baggage.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, most people hear that and immediately picture sci-fi movies or cyborgs, glowing red, robotic eyes, plugging your brain into the matrix.
Right. The term has definitely been co-opted by Hollywood, but the actual rigorous science of cybernetics predates digital computers entirely.
Wait, really?
Yeah. The term was originally coined by a mathematician named Norbert Wiener back in 1948.
Wow, 1948.
In his foundational book, Cybernetics, or Control and Communication in the Animal and the Machine, he actually derived the word from the Greek term for steersman or navigator.
Okay, so it's about steering.
Yes. Stripped of all the sci-fi gloss, cybernetics is simply the science of self-regulation and control.
Got it.
It's the study of how any system, whether it's biological or mechanical, gauges its own effect on the world, processes that feedback, and makes necessary course corrections to remain stable.
So it's not about building a robot arm. It's about a system being able to perceive a deviation from its goal and automatically steer itself back on track.
Precisely. And the most elegant way to visualize a foundational cybernetic device is actually to look at the standard thermostat mounted on your hallway wall.
Oh, interesting. Okay, break that down for us.
Sure. So a basic cybernetic system relies on three interconnected components. First, you have the sensor.
Right.
In your house, this is the thermometer constantly measuring the ambient temperature of the room. Second, you have the comparator.
The comparator.
Yeah, this is the logic center. It compares the room's actual temperature to the target temperature you set on the dial.
No.
It calculates the difference and asks, are we too hot or are we too cold?
Okay, that makes sense.
And finally, you have the activator. This is the mechanism that physically responds to the comparator's decision by kicking on the air conditioning or firing up the furnace.
Sensor, comparator, activator. It reads the room, it makes a mathematical choice, and it takes an action to change the environment.
Exactly.
So if we map that mechanical loop directly into video game architecture, the parallel is incredibly clear, right?
Oh, 100%.
The sensor is the game state. The code is tracking a massive database of your inputs. So your current health pool, your ammunition reserves, your physical coordinates on the map, and your failure rate.
Right. And then the comparator in game design terms, is usually called the scoring function or the controller.
The controller, okay.
This is the hidden logic that takes all that tracked data, analyzes it against the designer's intended difficulty curve, and basically decides if you are straying too far from the ideal experience.
And then the activator is what designers call a game mechanical bias, right?
Yes, exactly. That is the moment the game actually reaches into the simulation and changes a rule, like spawning a specific item, reducing an enemy's damage output, or altering a physics variable.
Let me throw an analogy at you to help visualize how this feels in practice for the listener.
Go for it.
It's exactly like the cruise control system in your car.
Oh, that's a good one.
When you're driving on a flat, easy highway, the system is just coasting, right? It's passive.
Right.
But when it senses the car's speed dropping, because you hit a steep incline, which in gaming terms is you hitting a massive difficulty spike and struggling,
Yeah, you're slowing down.
the system automatically injects more gas into the engine to maintain your momentum. In a game, injecting that gas means dropping a health pack or slowing an enemy down to push you over the hill.
That cruise control analogy captures the dynamic perfectly. The system is constantly monitoring its own momentum and adjusting the throttle to keep the journey smooth.
Basically an artificial organism striving for homeostasis.
Yes. And the true art of this, from a design perspective, is how developers hide these digital thermostats deep inside the engine.
Because if you see it, it ruins the magic.
Exactly. For the illusion to hold, you must never feel the car accelerating on its own.
So how do they actually mask that intervention? I mean, we all know games get easier or harder, but how do they execute the math without the player noticing the code shifting beneath their feet?
Well, the industry standard technique is called dynamic difficulty adjustment, or DDA.
EDA, okay.
This is the framework for actively reading player performance and altering the challenge in real time. Look at Crash Bandicoot, for example.
Oh man, classic.
Right. We all know the visceral pain of missing the exact same precarious jump 20 times in a row.
Do we ever?
But underneath the hood, the developers at Naughty Dog weren't just letting you fail in a vacuum. They were using a cybernetic loop.
Right, because if the game remains entirely static, a beginner hits a wall, gets frustrated, and just turns the console off.
Exactly. The designers solved that by turning the failure state into a sensor. The game's DDA constantly evaluates your death count at specific X and Y coordinates.
Okay.
If the comparator calculates that your failure rate at a specific gorge has crossed a hard-coded threshold, say 5 consecutive deaths,
Yeah.
it triggers an activator. The game state secretly shifts.
So what happens?
The next time you spawn, there might be a protective Aku Aku mask waiting for you, or a problematic enemy patrol might simply be despawned from the area entirely.
It's literally a hard-coded if-then statement providing an invisible nudge over the finish line.
Yes.
But that's a relatively simple metric, right? Tracking deaths at a specific location. What happens when we scale this up?
Oh, it gets wild.
Like, how does a cybernetic loop function when it has to track a dozen overlapping variables in a chaotic 3D environment?
That brings us to one of the most famous implementations of DDA in modern gaming, the Director AI in Left 4 Dead.
Oh, such a good example.
In a cooperative 4-player survival shooter, pacing is absolutely everything. The director's singular purpose is to calculate the player's real-time stress level and orchestrate the environment to create, like, cinematic tension.
So let's break down the actual metrics there. How does the code mathematically quantify a human emotion like stress?
It creates a running numerical tally based on your immediate context. The director assigns mathematical weights to your situation.
Okay, give me an example.
Let's say the baseline stress score is 0. If you take a hit from a standard infected enemy, the system might add 10 points to your stress meter.
Okay, makes sense.
If you wander more than 50 virtual meters away from your squad, that proximity alert adds another 20 points.
Oh, wow.
If you're firing your weapon but your ammo reserves drop below 15%, it tacks on another 15 points.
So the game is running a continuous background calculation.
Constantly.
My team is playing recklessly, getting separated and taking damage. Our collective stress score is just skyrocketing toward a limit.
And when that combined score crosses a predetermined mathematical threshold, let's say it hits 100 points, the comparator logic kicks in.
It knows we're losing our minds.
Right. It determines that the players are at maximum cognitive load, any more pressure, and the experience shifts from fun to miserable. So it triggers the activator.
And what does the activator do in that case?
The director acts as a pressure valve. It immediately pauses all new enemy spawns in the upcoming rooms. It might quietly generate a first aid kit in a blind corner up ahead.
I knew those kits weren't random.
Not at all. It even signals the audio engine to fade out the chaotic battle music and fade in a slower, ambient track to psychologically signal relief.
It literally enforces a valley after a peak.
Yes. And conversely, if our stress score drops to 10, meaning we are fully healed, loaded with ammo, and breezing through the level.
The comparator decides things are too boring.
Exactly. It triggers a different activator, suddenly spawning a massive horde of zombies or a boss character to spike our adrenaline back up. Information, decision, action, result.
It curates a custom-tailored emotional roller coaster for every single playthrough, relying entirely on cybernetic feedback.
It's brilliant design.
It really is.
Yeah.
But, okay, I need to put the brakes on this for a second and step in to play devil's advocate for you, the listener.
Sure, go ahead.
Because as a player, hearing the mechanics laid bare like this feels slightly manipulative.
I can see that.
If I am grinding for hours to master a specific skill, right, memorizing an attack pattern, perfecting my timing, and the game is just secretly moving the goalpost behind my back to ensure I win,
Right?
isn't that cheating? Doesn't that completely hollow out the satisfaction of mastery?
Right.
I mean, I want to know I beat a level because I got better, not because a hidden algorithm took pity on me and nerfed the difficulty.
You have just articulated the most fragile, critical vulnerability in cybernetic game design.
Okay.
The entire system is built on player trust. What happens when the player actually notices the system manipulating the reality of the game?
When you see the strings, the puppet show is ruined.
Yeah. Exactly. If a cybernetic system becomes too visible, it shatters the illusion of the digital world. If you know your opponent's abilities aren't fixed, but are dynamically scaling to match your inputs, they stop feeling like a genuine obstacle.
They just feel fake.
Right.
Right.
They just feel like a mathematical rubber band constantly stretching and snapping back to your position.
Which is the exact term used in racing games, rubber banding.
Yes.
Anyone who has played Mario Kart or Wipeout knows exactly what this feels like.
Rubber banding is the textbook example of a visible negative feedback loop. In systems theory, a negative feedback loop pushes a system back toward a center point of equilibrium.
Because racing game designers want the pack of cars to stay close together to maintain visual excitement and tension.
Yes, so they manipulate the physics engine based on your track position.
It is so frustrating sometimes.
If you hit the wall 3 times and fall far behind the pack, the system magically throttles the top speed of the computer-controlled cars so you can catch up.
Yeah.
Conversely, if you drive a flawless lap and pull far ahead of the pack, the system grants the AI opponents a supernatural, mathematically impossible speed boost to catch right back up to your bumper.
You take every corner perfectly, you optimize your racing line, and an AI car just casually breaks the laws of physics to pass you on a straightaway.
Yep.
It feels deeply unfair because it actively punishes you for playing well.
The design trade-off here is incredibly delicate. Developers implement this to preserve the uncertainty of the outcome.
Right, because if you pull so far ahead in the first lap that your victory is mathematically guaranteed, the remaining 2 laps lose all meaning.
Exactly. Tension requires uncertainty. But the fatal flaw of visible rubber banding is that it makes the game exploitable.
Oh, absolutely. Players stop playing the racing game and they start playing the cybernetic loop.
Once a player deduces that the feedback loop exists, the metagame takes over. A seasoned player might intentionally drive terribly for the first 2 laps.
I've totally done this.
See, they stay in last place, hoarding powerful items and letting the AI cruise at a highly reduced speed. Then, on the final turn of the final lap, they unleash their resources, exploiting the rubber band effect to steal the win.
The self-balancing system defeats its own purpose because the human learned to manipulate the thermostat.
Exactly.
So to summarize this tightrope walk, if the game is going to act as a puppet master to keep the drama high, the player must never realize they are on a stage.
Never.
The second you notice the thermostat actively adjusting the temperature of the room, your feeling of true agency vanishes.
Which is why the current frontier of game design is focused on masking these cybernetic feedback loops inside mechanisms that feel entirely organic.
Okay, how they do that?
Well, if you can't rely on hard-coded if-then statements without players noticing the rubber band, you have to use a better camouflage. This brings us to adaptive AI.
Now, when we hear artificial intelligence, especially right now, we tend to think of large language models or, digital consciousness trying to outsmart us.
Right, like a sci-fi villain.
Yeah. But the sources make it very clear that in gaming, that is a massive
A
misconception.
huge misconception. In the context of game design, AI is almost never about human-level intelligence or optimal problem solving. It is entirely about behavior design.
Behavior design.
Right. If a developer wanted to program an AI that mathematically crushes you in a first-person shooter, it would be
Oh,
trivial.
for sure.
It would just instantly calculate your coordinates and headshot you through a wall the millisecond you spawned.
But mathematical perfection is easy to code. It's just utterly miserable to play against.
Exactly. The goal of adaptive AI is to create an opponent that challenges you without overwhelming you. It's about crafting an entity that feels intentional, reactive, and believable.
Okay, so far we've talked about developers manually hard coding the thresholds for these systems, right? Like the director adding 10 stress points for a zombie hit.
Yes.
But the sources also dive into systems that aren't hard coded at all. Systems that figure out the rules of engagement on their own. Let's look at the OpenAI hide-and-seek case study.
This is a brilliant demonstration of emergent cybernetic behavior.
So cool.
OpenAI built a physics-based digital arena and dropped in two teams of AI agents, seekers and hiders. The objective was simply to see what kind of behaviors would develop through their interaction.
But they didn't program the agents with instructions on how to hide or how to navigate the map, right?
No, not at all.
How does a system learn to adapt without hard-coded rules?
They used a machine learning technique called reinforcement learning. The agents aren't thinking about strategy, they're simply trying to maximize a mathematical reward function through trial and error.
Huh?
The reward function is entirely numerical. A seeker gets a positive point to its score for every frame of the simulation it has a hider in its line of sight.
Simple enough.
And a hider gets a positive point for every frame it breaks that line of sight. That's it. Those are the only rules.
So the agents are basically given a digital treat, like training a dog. But the dog can run millions of simulations a second.
Pretty much.
It just mashes random inputs, total chaos at first, until a random movement accidentally increases the score.
That is the information, decision, action, result loop operating at hyperspeed. The first few million rounds were just agents vibrating and running into walls.
Naturally.
But as they constantly updated their internal weights based on the reward function, an incredible arms race evolved. The seekers quickly learned to chase. In response, the hiders learned to interact with the physics engine.
What did they do?
They figured out how to drag physical boxes across the map to barricade doors and lock the seekers out.
They evolved tool use and built fortresses just to maximize a math equation.
Yes.
It's an incredible look at how systems adapt to pressure. But how does that translate to making a game actually fun for a human? If an AI is constantly evolving to maximize its win state, doesn't it just become that perfect, unbeatable headshot machine we were talking about earlier?
This is where we introduce the concept of readability.
Readability. Okay.
For an adaptive AI to be engaging for a human player, it has to prioritize readability over optimal performance.
Right.
If an AI makes a mathematically flawless decision instantly, the human player can't learn from the encounter. It just feels like you are dying randomly for no reason.
I need to be able to read its tells, like a poker player. I need to see the gears turning.
Precisely. For an adaptive system to work as a piece of entertainment, players must be able to recognize patterns and anticipate responses. An AI that makes highly readable, predictable mistakes.
Like telegraphing an attack.
Yes. An AI that actively telegraphs its attacks before it swings feels far more engaging and lifelike than one that calculates the perfect defensive angle every time.
Here is where this all clicks together, and let me offer a final analogy to cement this idea for you guys listening.
Let's hear it.
Good game AI is less like a chess grandmaster who is trying to ruthlessly humiliate you in 3 moves.
Right.
It is much more like a professional wrestler or a truly great dance partner.
Oh, the dance partner analogy is spot on.
Their job isn't to beat you up or run you off the floor. Their job is to constantly read your moves, adapt to your rhythm, offer just enough physical resistance to make the struggle look and feel real, and ultimately make you look good while putting on an amazing show.
If the AI just crushes you, the dance is over immediately.
Exactly.
If the AI stands completely still and offers no resistance, the dance is boring. The system must constantly monitor your outputs, your pacing, your skill level, your positioning, and adapt its own behavior to keep the rhythm going.
It's a conversation.
It is. That is the absolute pinnacle of the cybernetic loop. The game isn't a static obstacle course waiting for your input. It is an active, observing participant in your experience.
So what does this mean for us? When you sit down tonight or this weekend to boot up your favorite game, I want you to remember the mechanics we've unpacked today.
Look for the loop.
Exactly. The game you are playing is a self-regulating cybernetic organism. It is watching you. It is tracking your virtual heart rate, compiling your stress score, and managing your momentum. Through the endless, invisible cycle of information, decision, action, and result. It uses dynamic difficulty adjustment and adaptive AI to curate a perfectly balanced journey. It wants you to feel the thrill of the challenge and the rush of the reward without ever letting you see the strings pulling you along.
It entirely reframes the relationship between the human and the screen.
It really does.
Mm.
And for those of you who want to move from just playing these systems to actually building them, you know what to do. As part of our focus on cybernetics and adaptive systems, we have a clear next step. Head over to the technical breakdown in our online classroom.
It's highly recommended.
It literally walks you through the code, showing you exactly how to integrate these cybernetic feedback loops and adaptive AI metrics into your own projects.
Before we wrap, I want to leave you with one final, slightly broader idea to mull over.
Let's hear it.
We have spent this entire deep dive analyzing video games. But if entertainment software has become this incredibly sophisticated at secretly monitoring our stress levels, reading our behavioral patterns, and dynamically adapting its environment to keep us optimally hooked, what happens when the everyday apps on our phones, the ones that manage our physical health, our personal finances, and our education, start utilizing these exact same invisible cybernetic feedback loops to secretly shape our real-world behavior?
Wow. Yeah, that is definitely something to think about. So the next time you are staring at a screen and everything just seems to magically fall into place, remember that health pack appearing in the corner right when you needed it most.
Yeah.
It is not luck. It is the machine, and it knows exactly what it is doing.
Do you want to learn more about game design? Try our game design course. Go from learning the basics to becoming a master game designer. No coding skills needed. Taught by award-winning game designer Gabe Mack, this course is filled with hours of videos, puzzles, tools, and exercises to turn you into a serious game designer. Why are you waiting to harness the power of play? Visit school.thegamebeyond.com to sign up today.